Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that makes this Exit for Comics your new home for talking about comics. It looks a lot like the old home, and let me explain why. It is the same bat time, the same bat channel, but it's one of those things where you put a fancy new name on it, so it makes all the difference.
I mean, it's a huge reboot in our heads and in our hearts.
Yeah, and it's really funny because I don't think we've ever actually renamed the show before. I've put like monikers on it, like, the Hope You Survive the Experience X's for show or whatever, but like, this is the first time we just straight up said, new name, don't be dumb.
Yeah.
One of the things that I am most excited about is that we're going to stop focusing so much on like trying to hit every book that we can fit into a cover, and we're going to focus a little bit more on like what's vibing for us through comics.
We're talking themes a little bit
thematic,
more.
Yeah, getting that
points of interest. We lucked out this week.
Yeah.
It was super easy. Crossovers.
Good juju, good vibes, and the same tachyon particles. I think
it's so tacky and it's so on.
Oh my god, it's tacky, it's on, and the other thing it is that's kind of got me surprised is like it kind of does feel like they're the same crossover, and
it really does.
It's so funny that they are the same crossover. I'm so sorry. Wait, can everybody hear me?
You got a little muddy.
How am I doing now?
You're still a little muddy. Let's see.
Okay, let's keep talking through it.
Go. Yeah,
all right.
We got her back.
Okay.
Little Mike Madness.
Little Mike Madness. Right?
Listen, that's going to happen when you reboot the series.
Well, and that's what it is, right? So these tachyon particles, right? They are running through Marvel. They are running through DC. For those who don't know, we're going to be talking about Giant Size X-Men #1, which kicks off this Giant Size Ms. Marvel event. I'm here for it. I'm having a good time already. Then we have the We Are Yesterday event over at DC. And the thing that kind of has me the most surprised about it is they're the same, like, what if time got slightly changed by one person?
Yeah, with a little bit of, but it's all rooted in the now thing that we want you to still invest in. It's very funny. I mean, like, it is one of those things that really makes you wonder, like, are they collabing? Does one group know that the other one is doing an event? And so,
wait, are they collaborating? Are
Marvel
and DC,
and then we got
collaborating,
and that's really how we got to this theme.
Yeah, Batman, Deadpool, like okay, well, that's a whole lot of Walmart T-shirts. Okay.
But it's really funny because I was rewatching some old Cowboy Bebop the other day, and there is an episode and a character called Mother who is exactly Mom from Futurama.
Love it.
And I mean, it is just the exact same thing. They look the same. It's the exact same thing. And so, I this is something that I've known forever, and I must have Googled when I was like incredibly high as a freshman in college. And I imagine the Google search was very different back then because there was no Reddit. And which is, of course, where you go for all of your questions that you're not going to go to Quora for. But yeah, they both just did we're out in space and there's a diabolical old woman who just has just grabs criminals as sons and makes them do her dirty work. One did not steal from the other. The timeline just wouldn't work for that to be possible. So they just... two creators decided to take it spacefaring and have a mama who was crazy, and that I mentioned that only because I'm sitting here wondering, did Marvel see DC is getting Mark Waid to do some time travel shenanigans? We should have a time travel shenanigan, or did DC say Marvel's finally putting Miss Marvel to the test? We should put Gorilla Grodd to the test.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the history of good stealing. Okay, so there's bad stealing. DC has Wonder Woman, so Marvel wants to do Wonder Man. Marvel has Power Man, so DC does Power Girl. Right? There's a history of like I just want to block you from getting the copyright in like in a bad way. Yeah, like an Arietti kind of way, right? Like your jokes all belong to me. So then there's the other kind of stealing, okay? And this other kind of stealing is...
Oh, you froze. Hold on 1 second. We're going to get you back.
Somebody in one of the offices is sitting there. Somebody in one of the offices. Somebody in one of the offices. Can I go now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you know where you froze?
Yeah. So somebody in one of the offises says, I got this great idea that I'm going to pull together this story, right? And it's going to be, a long dead sidekick shows back up, and also the person goes back through time, and there's a time travel gun involved, and there's some rewriting reality involved. Okay, it's both the death of Batman and the return of Bucky, right? So like Ed Brubaker was writing Batman just before the going over to Cap stuff, right? So like what you wind up with is the same people were working on like 10, 12, 15 projects, right? And they wind up touching a little bit of everything and affecting a little bit of everything. And it's for that reason that I wonder if this vibe, this book that they did, was originally meant to be something different. And now it's this. And it's this two places.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be serving very different functions, is one of the really big things for me. DC's feels like a little bit of a victory lap, a little bit of like, we stuck the landing with our new continuity, with everything that happened after Absolute Power. And it really hasn't been that long. And I think the way all of the stories have played out, and the fact that it's a split result, because the other result is the Absolute universe, which a lot of our eyes are focused on, a lot of our energy is focused on. So it softens the blow of anything that is bad. It also softens the blow of anything that might be super good in the primary DC universe and primary DC storytelling. But in general, they're having, I think, a very smooth transition from Absolute Power into a new status quo. For the X-Men line, this feels a lot more like everybody's been unhappy for over a year. We gotta do something. Also, over a year ago, we said Kamala Khan is a mutant. And while we did some really excellent stories written by excellent people, some great 5-issue minis that really featured her, we still haven't said what her fucking mutant power is. And like, even though NYX is even good, NYX was so relegated to the B or even C tier, you know, if we consider exceptional, adjectiveless, and uncanny as the 3 A tier X-Men titles, the ones that they really were going to push and hope that if you read anything, you read those 3. Then everything behind those, of which there are many, it's sort of tough to tell what's the B tier and what's the C tier because it's a decision of both quality, focus, and a bunch of factors. But NYX falls into that nebulous zone. It does feel like C tier in terms of who cared about it over at Marvel. Felt closer to B tier for me in terms of heart and quality, even though I didn't always agree with the ideas. But again, that's where Miss Marvel, who is kind of, for one, she has a flagship name. She has Marvel in the name, so it's a flagship no matter what. But also, like, if you're saying she's also an X-Men, like a flagship character, Teen Mutant, you know, represents diversity, represents that Marvel is not just white people saving the world, flagship character. So we're saying she's also part of this really big, you know, part of the Marvel universe, this really big culture, the best-selling series of books, et cetera. Sort of nuts to do all that and then say, oh yeah, she's just going to be an NYX. So doing this giant size crossover and sending Kamala through the X-Men timeline to sort of reinforce her relevance as both a Marvel character and an X-Men character feels like it needs to do a bigger job than everybody palling around trying to figure out why this monkey being so crazy.
You know, it's also fascinating because it really comes down to whether or not the event has weight. Now, here's where I don't want to get to the monkey is the Sultan, but here's where my brain's at.
Wait, which Sultan?
It's from Aladdin. She thinks the monkey is the Sultan.
Wow,
So-
that is an amazing Abu.
And you nailed the cadence too of that line, so kudos.
We're gonna need a lot more of the Abu later, but that'll be a discussion for future production meetings. Anyway, continue.
So, I wonder if we're in a position where this could just get washed over. Do you guys remember how big a deal they made of that Bendis timeline and Raze and like
Battle for the Atom.
yeah,
So, yeah.
and how
Well-
that came to be kind of nothing, regardless of anything. And so Giant Size X-Men is running through Giant Size X-Men, Giant Size Dark Phoenix Saga, Giant Size Age of Apocalypse, Giant Size House of M, and then Giant Size X-Men 2. And it's one of those things where, like, I almost can't believe that they're not going to do, like, mini size X Factor and, like, have, like, a spin-off event.
No,
I would love it.
You're pitching better idea. This
No,
yes.
no. The best thing I have read in a long... No, my two favorite lines of the week were, number one, Scarecrow saying, "We made everybody think they're being stung by bees," and Joker going, "I'm gonna sting you. I'm gonna sting you," which I literally cackled out loud so hard Kevo was like, "What is happening?" And the other line I thought was so painfully good, but I don't know if it was good for the right reasons. Was it's time for you to be what you were always meant to be, a giant sized X-Man. I don't know if that was the funniest line I've ever heard or the best line I've ever heard. I'll say I think it's less embarrassing than Casey saying, "Nothing big, just a man running faster than he's ever ran before," in the beginning of Sports Night. But like, I don't know if the
That's not Casey's fault. He was acting weird.
it's such a big X-Man.
Yeah, I
Oh, so literal. Oh, so literal.
I do agree.
So good, so funny, so good.
I like where your head's at. I do have to sort of fall on the side of it was not intended to be what it was, but here we are.
I loved it.
I have to do it now because it will drive me insane. There's the biggest continuity error in this, I think, unless somebody please correct me if I am wrong. But when during extermination, when the O5 go back in time to reset all this years of having them here being the most annoying people on Earth, we keep flashing back and forth between them in the present and them in the past, and they're at that moment where Beast quits the team, and they're all in their kid clothes, their 60s looking clothes, which makes even less sense now. Whatever. And they know they have their full suite of memories being the teen X-Men in the future. And Jean says specifically, "I am going to do a thing to our minds so that we will not remember any of this until we get to the exact moment we are traveling back from in extermination right now." And the whole point of that is to say they had always done this. The X-Men that we had seen from the 60s comics onwards had always gone to the future and traveled back in time. They just never spoke about it because they did not remember it. They didn't remember that it happened because Jean wiped their minds, but they would get it all back, and that way Bobby would know that he was gay. All this other stuff would happen. They would get it all back at the exact moment.
Spaceman's gay. Oh, sorry.
I got news for you.
Wait,
At the exact moment that extermination was happening in the present of that time. So Scott cannot remember that he was on Champions with Kamala Khan because that is teen Scott. And No shrug. That's an important one.
Can I tell you why I'm going to shrug it?
Yeah.
If Kamala goes back to the past and she interacts with Scott, who's supposed to be like memory time locked, but the event that she's incurring is outside of the scope of Jean's telepathic programming, right? If time is now changed from Jean's dial settings, the conditionality of Jean's telepathy against the idea of time travel just doesn't feel like that Jean has the psychic mojo to outwit tachyon particles any more than the best laid plans of a psychic who has had everything exposed, and now we discovered Justina. Let me tell you, that story.
We're gonna get there.
Also, hey, Vigilante Vibes, we love you now. You're in our chat. Hey, say
your
hi.
vibes are very vigilantastic.
Ooh, so vigilant.
Yeah, I love your explanation. Go edit the book and say you can't submit this. Like, the script is fantastic. You're gonna yes, do it.
I don't fit.
I know it's tough with the vertical.
Near a window.
No, I mean, like, that's my thing. Like, your explanation is perfect. It has to go in the book. We can't hand wave so much. And again, edit the books. Somebody read them for content, and then when the content isn't quite right, do something about it. I remain in the zone of what are editors doing?
That's my best friend up there.
And Tori says, Tori Sheehan, contributor, friend,
genius.
Genius. Yes, thank you. Tori says, when it comes to Jean, Nico says she can't be bad at things. It's impossible. Well, Tori, I really agree. So Nico's explanation that she's bad at erasing memories in the face of tachyon particles, I think is horseshit.
Actually, think about it. It's Teen Jean, and I hate her.
It's Teen Jean kind of by way of adultery. But anyway, I'll let you have it. Again, like, I'll let you have it if they pay you to go sit in the office and say, hey, Hive Mind, you got almost everything right, but this was kind of an important thing. Like, I know that
I'm here to fend on Marvel, yes.
I know we do a lot of rollover on continuity. I know we accept that because these are enormous serialized storytelling things. We're not going to catch everything. That really can and should be okay. But that's like a significant moment that is not hard to get at, is not hard to remember happened, is not hard to point to, and is not hard to have an in-story reason why we can forgive it. And it might even make the story a little more rich because it acknowledges that our temporality matters and the continuity does matter. And for me, it does have to matter a little bit. It has to matter that much. And I just sometimes really feel like we go by, because the other thing is it has to matter because why am I buying into the stories if you're just going to say like, it matters so little that it has no effect. So, I love your explanation. I would have been perfectly happy if Professor X had said, like, I noticed that you all have but then he would have remembered all of it. So anyway,
yeah, that continuity didn't go into a teen girl's mind. Jesus.
I know. I like that they really went hard on that one. Don't worry, he's not a pervert anymore. He's not going to be talking about how he's accidentally in love with Kamala and what's he going to do. Yeah. So I did have a huge problem with that, as you can tell. But other than that, it was good.
I think the thing I like the most about Giant Size X-Men #1 is there was this Marvel book in the 90s, Marvel Universe, and it had Silver Surfer in silver embossing on this blue cover, and it had a wraparound. And let me tell you, everybody had it the way everybody has the DK Encyclopedia of DC, right? And I want to say that like an entire generation learned how to be wiki whores from books like that. And it feels like
and of course from Hot Moves even before that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Hot Moves were still issues.
Yeah.
And this could be bought at a Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
And almost every picture in it was from that book. Almost every picture in this that they reference is from Marvel Universe, that big hardcover. And as somebody who had it, it like really kind of struck me. The thing that read so good about this was it was eager to be its own thing, playing into this time rather than trying to tell us what we didn't know about this time. It wasn't, Kamala Khan pops up in the background of Krakoa with a secret Krakoa team that we didn't know about. No. Time has just kind of changed.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of a big swing if this was a turning point for Marvel. That this, and I don't want to, but like, there's that thing at the end of the solicit for Batman, Deadpool, Batman, that, both companies basically ran the same copy, that they say the beginning of the biggest crossover event like of all time. Is more coming? Is this the start of something? And if it is, are we talking about how ruptured time is? Is there going to be something really cool, like a bunch of Marvel characters at DC for a couple of months? Obviously not forever, and a very specific hard, literally it would all fit in exact trades. There would never even be any leftover bits. But they both have lost so much market share to an ever increasing market. I really wonder if this attempt at saying time can be remembered differently at both companies at the same time, after both companies at the same time relaunched universes, after both companies at the same time are hungry for a cinematic victory. I really wonder if this could be the start of some actual synergy where the two companies recognize that they can keep fighting and they can keep biting at each other's ass, but the better thing to do would just be to suck each other's dicks already.
Well, and so that gets us into a briefly tangential conversation, but you're more than anything, you're talking about Batman and Deadpool.
Yeah. Batman, Deadpool.
Yeah, which we did know that we were doing some return to amalgam / to Marvel and DC working together, and that's great, and I'm really excited to see where that goes. July and August solicits for Marvel. I don't check DC solicits. I just let you guide me. July and August solicits for Marvel are not leaving me wildly optimistic about big money moves for their lane specifically.
Oh, so you mean like they might be in a holding pattern waiting for something really big to happen in the next coming months?
I think that the shared lane I'm still very open to, but you were positing some big potential moves for the X-Men line and for particularly for X-Men in light of the giant size series, and that happened. You were talking about it before August solicits had come out. And then August solicits came out, and while we do get the Age of Apocalypse book, we're not getting a lot else, and we're not getting anything like this is coming. What could it be? ? So it's not to say that it can't still happen, but we are getting further into the timeline where it would be a surprise to see any kind of launch off of giant size that hasn't been in some way hinted at or announced. So I'm losing a little bit of hope for that. Not entirely, but
well, actually, I want you to continue on that. I want to know your thought on it first. The fact that if they are looking to build something unique, they would want the element of seedable surprise. What if this end of Giant Size X-Men 2 doesn't kick in till October, so that it could literally be a clean slate, and the solicit for the change won't hit until after the event is over?
I love that. I would love that. I hope that you're right.
I'm giving them the fucking playbook.
That's what I'm saying, is we talk about great ideas a lot of the time that don't happen in ways that I'm like, it seemed like you actively went with a bad idea when two guys just chatting at each other's faces came up with a better one.
And what handsome faces. Look at them. We got everything you need.
And we can spitball comic ideas like nobody's business, but we
absolutely can spitball us.
paid to do it, so also pay us. I love your idea. I hope you're right. I think you're not. I hope you are. Not because of you.
No,
I know. But that's what really drives me nuts is, because the pattern is bad moves and big mistakes and money left on table. So why would I think otherwise? But I like what you're positing. I do hope you're right. And this book makes me feel like that is what we should be doing. That is where we should be going. We should be using this for big moves. I also got to say, I had that huge complaint about the Cyclops continuity with Kamala, but I really appreciated that they stuck with Legion continuity, that they went out of their way to say, this is not the guy in the white hot room. I almost was like, Nico, I don't want to do this series because I love that David. I love Cy Spurrier's David from the Krakoa era. He's kind of an important character to me. Incredible character growth. I really like Blindfold. I really like what was going on between the two of them. I've liked that forever. I just thought he did such fantastic character work, and it really bothered me that we were going to do Legion Quest 2.0. And I like Legion Quest 2.0. Don't get me wrong. I would have revisited the idea, but it really bothered me that we would lose all of that character growth and these two guys would just kind of bring him back in and have him be crazy. They really went out of their way to show us that it's not... They specifically say, I'm not the guy in the white hot room. I'm like basically remnants of him.
I'm piloting his body.
Yeah.
Like a future Gorilla Grodd.
So
I'm late today.
For my complaints about continuity, I also have very positive reflections on continuity. And again, if you are watching or listening and you know somewhere that it got changed and that the 05 now do remember their whole time and this makes total sense, please correct me. I absolutely could have missed that book or that moment where that happened. I really appreciated that, and I am very interested in what this book is doing and what it has to say. I like the mission of continuing to weave Kamala into the fabric of the Marvel Universe and into the fabric of the X-Men side of the Marvel Universe, because it's not an easy thing to infiltrate.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I love what you're saying, because one of the things that I don't want to, oh my God, I'm giving people who think I'm a bad fanboy way too much weaponry right now, but go ahead. I'll just bounce off, right? The big thing I want to say here is fuck all of your preciousness, because your preciousness came at the cost of your father's preciousness. So what I really would love to see happen is I would love to see them say, no, Kamala really did live through the entirety of Marvel. And I would love to get every crossover retold with Kamala in it, year by year, as hardcovers. One hardcover a month for 12 months, covering 12 years of major Marvel crossovers, reimagined with Kamala in them, and how that would ultimately change the entirety of the Marvel Universe. And then you know what I'm ready to do? I'm ready to say thank you for the new canon and start there the next year. Because you know why? I am so over the number of times I was told that this character is going to be the next big thing, and they were about as effective as a pair of Jenko jeans in 2002. You guys really needed to stop saying that everything was the next big thing, because when they finally figured out that they had gone too far and they tried to pull a fast one in a funny way with Ulysses in Civil War II, and they did something where they said this character is the next big thing and then ascended him out of the books at the end of the event, they set up the potentiality for recognizing that that's not always going to work in a clever way. I think this should just result in the Kamala Khan era of X-Men, and we should get those hardcovers, and they should be written by the best voices in comics and drawn by the best hands in comics, and I just want them. Thanks. Bye.
Again, this is a phenomenal idea. This is not happening. This is such a good idea. It's not happening. You are absolutely right. And I also really, you are frozen on this look, and that's amazing.
Wait, can you see me dancing now?
Yeah, now you're dancing.
Okay,
you're good.
Cool.
You're also really right. Like so I love this idea because it's, again, money on the table. You're printing money with that. These hardcovers, like But also, what did we last week we talked about the fact that, like, okay, Magneto was a victim of the Holocaust, and that's fine because he got DH to a baby. That's great. That's so fun. Love that for you. That can still make sense in 2025 because he got DH to a baby. He recently died and came back to life. Magnetism keeps the skin supple. That's why Madonna is constantly trying to get magnetic powers. We can justify Magneto. We can't justify Gabrielle Haller. We can't justify Legion's mom. Legion's mom should be 103 years old. And there's no point.
Would you update it? I mean, really, would you update it to the modern Israeli conflict? Could you allow it to be that she is actually a generation younger and he meets her in a time of him and Xavier as Peace Corps members journeying to Israel in the 70s?
I only would not do that because I can't trust anybody but myself to write that properly.
I mean, I pitched it. Trust me. Don't trust me.
Yeah. But could I accept that? Sure. What I would probably do is still have her be. It's tough because Xavier is also is aging weirdly, but like, let's assume just because we're talking about this idea, she still was in the Holocaust. Everything still happened the way it did. Legion was born when he was. I would probably have him have folded out of time. One of the personalities folds him out of time and puts him back in later. I would use his powers. So, but to my original point, if we send Kamala back in time, we get a chance to update a lot of Universal events. I'm not even talking about the mechanical ones that we have to figure out why Legion is the way that he is. That one kind of does need to be figured out. But the X-Men can now have been teenagers in 2000. We just have to send Kamala back to revisit that. And already we're sort of screwing that up with Giant Size because they are really trying to make it look just like the non-specific 70s that it is and can never be. So, I wish they had maybe played around with that a little bit more. I love things like First Class and Season 1.
How much would you love it if they did First Class again with Kamala?
Right.
Just the sixth X-Man. Like, I can't help but think it makes so much sense if Kamala was just the sixth X-Man and she was so nice to Tessa, who was secretly the seventh X-Man. I know it's so stupid, but I've let these people lie to me and say that Wanda was a member of the X-Kids all this time.
Right.
Fucking
well, and it's so funny
more.
when I was saying before, like, it's not easy to infiltrate the X-Men universe, part of the universe. What a really funny thing is, Wanda didn't have to infiltrate. She was always there. And so they lucked out because they were able to kind of say through things like Magneto being her father and a lot of other stuff, like, oh, she's kind of always been one of them. Like, every time that you saw her, she was one of them. They never had to super retcon. She went back in time and was an X-Man. No, she was just kind of present and like didn't have their same experience. They wove her in, and then they wove her in by making her their greatest enemy and villain. But like, they have figured out how to weave Wanda in with the X-Men when they wanted her to be one, and then to try and pull her out when they didn't. And the only thing about pulling her out is X-Men fans claim her. Even though we hate her, she has to be one of us for a lot of reasons, and that's why nobody likes the biological retcon. But we're okay if she's not on an X-Men team. We just want to account for the fact that she has always been part of the mythos. And so that's how crazy and difficult it gets to deal with a character who is not an X-Man, but needs to be part of the X-Men tapestry. Kamala is like a next level of difficulty after that, because she literally was created afterwards and is a part of the species that are antithetical to the X-Men that the company then tried to use to replace the X-Men when they didn't have the rights to them. So it's extra special difficult. And I actually think broadly, it has been a very fun exercise making her important. I think this next level of things also started out very interesting. This is a strong book. Like so many things at Marvel, it's the strength of the book is never the problem. It's the strength of the publishing. It's the strength of the editing. It's the strength of what are you actually going to do next. It's the strength of sitting on this fucking podcast, having my podcast partner pitch better ideas than I believe I will be getting out of the source material. Because I think the source material is good, but I want to see creative minds be empowered to then turn that source material into something and not just say, okay, we published something and then you guys didn't buy it, so we're canceling it, which that's another rant that we really could and should get into, because we are getting a lot of, oh, it's all on demand, so you can watch it whenever you want. You can buy it whenever you want. You can read it in 3 months on Marvel Unlimited. Oh, you didn't read it the week it came out. You're the reason we're canceling it. You didn't watch it the week it came out. You're the reason we're canceling it. What was the point of calling it on demand if I can't later show my support for it when I don't know, I'm not fucking working? Like, God forbid I want to sit down over a sick weekend and absolutely love your show, but it's not 2 weeks after it came out, so now the watching isn't valid anymore. How many comics are we going to lose to this? How many shows are we going to lose to this? It's really driving me fucking insane.
You know, and Kevin, go.
Just especially, you know, with the way formats have changed, and with when you're getting like Doctor Who, 8 episodes a season, that's not something that's ridiculous to want to save up and watch all at once. When you take 2-3 years to drop 10-12 episodes, yeah, and you know, when Marvel does things to trade, when they do things to arc, you sometimes want to wait and save up the whole arc and read it then. And so, you know, why are you formatting it to be all consumed at once if you don't want it all consumed at once? At my leisure.
And Doctor Who really is the thing that started this conversation. It was you and me talking about Doctor Who this week, because I did catch up this week, which the season is not done yet. I watched it all. I loved it all, but I didn't watch most of it when it came out. It was just the week that it came out, because I just have not been able to. I didn't have the time. Like, I didn't necessarily think about it, but I'm going to watch the whole thing. This has been one of my favorite seasons. And as I watch it, and as I think I'm really enjoying this, every news article I get is ratings are down, you know, but what does that mean? Because in a year, are those ratings going to have still been bad, or are people just going to maybe have waited until they felt like watching it? And similarly, so many of these books, are they not getting read, or did they just not get bought this first week? But you sold me Marvel Unlimited, so I didn't have to buy everything the first week, and I can still go into the app that you told me is for on-demand comics buying or comics reading if I wait 3 months. If you didn't want that to be part of the program, there's so many things that I'm supporting this way, and I just feel like I don't know what to do, because there's so many books that I love, but that $10 a month, again, I've always said I'll up the fee if it means that I can show books support without having to go buy them week of, because I just can't do everything that way. But there's so much stuff that I love that I find value in with my Marvel Unlimited subscription, and I want to believe that those books can be part of a story and not just be a disappointment if I'm not buying them on Wednesday.
We just can't move that past.
And I hate to jump back super far, but
no, do it. Do it. I ranted. I think those are all of my rants. I have a cute one for DC, but yeah.
One of the things that I think sometimes people wind up with as a humongous frustration when they're dealing with these characters suddenly getting the center stage is they feel a little bit like, why now do I have to deal with Kamala on every title?
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm suggesting that put Kamala in the book in the past, and then maybe Kitty Pryde doesn't leave X-Men because the little girl gets injured. Maybe she leaves X-Men because she feels like there's no room for her and goes to Excalibur to be strong and gets injured there and still has a story about overcoming an injury and being better for it. But this isn't just about taking an opportunity to go to the past and pretend that bad stories didn't happen. Things like this give us a chance to revisit ideas in new ways that allow us to update them so that we don't have to just hand wave the problematic parts. This could be Marvel's way of doing what DC does so much that DC found a way to make a story about it. Like literally, one of DC's favorite things is going, oh, well, by the way, the past didn't happen how you think it did. No big deal. That's like literally what is making We Are Yesterday so interesting already. The fact that like Batman immediately was like, oh no, what, Dick, you've been dead. Wait, but you're Nightwing, but you're Robin, but you're Nightwing. And the fact that we see this sort of meta play, number one, I almost think that this event is uneventful in a weird way.
Yeah,
like
no,
nothing. It's so chill. Like
Yeah.
it could have been an annual.
Yeah.
But instead, it's an event, and so I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit tailor made for me. But I would love to know: is this tailor ham for you?
It's very tailor ham for me. I don't think it's tailor made for you. I think it's a better idea. It's a better way of doing things. I think it just is good. Like, for one thing,
You heard that? I don't deserve good things.
no, ever. For one thing, Mark Waid's writing all of it. So Mark Waid is on, World's Finest, including the annual, and then he's on Justice League Unlimited. So he's masterminding it over 2 books. Compare and contrast that to Ride at Xavier's, the most recent X-Men thing before this.
No.
Yeah.
No. Right at Xavier's is the name of the new X-Men.
Rescue.
Like
Rescue?
Attack on Grey Malkin.
Attack on Grey Malkin. Thank you.
Something like that.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Thank you. Well, go get Xavier from Xavier's, which is now called Grey Malkin Prison. Compared to that, Gail Simone on one book, Jed McKay on the other. Both of them with just different enough styles that an argument between characters in 2 books reads very different voice tones. And again, because nobody is editing these books, I'm sure they're checking for typos, but nobody is saying, Jed, I love this, but this fight started in Gail's book, and she kind of framed it like this. So do you mind if I just tweak the language, or can Gail take a pass? And so it comes off really disjointed. Also, it's really not fun. No one's having fun. The villains are having fun. Like, as you pointed out, we made everybody feel like they were getting stung by bees. I'm stinging you. It's just a little bit silly. It's also a little bit silly because the villains are closer to their golden age. I mean, it's later in the timeline than that, but
it feels very Magic Kingdom stage show.
Thank you. Yeah. And there's a few things that get said, like, he's like, I have to get the most evil people, which is the silliest line, because villains no longer think they're evil. They just think they want stuff for other reasons. So nobody's looking for the most evil person. They're looking for people who are useful. And he talks like that a lot too, but he does literally specifically say, I need the most evil people, which is just a thing we don't do in comics anymore. But the fact that they did it just kind of lightens the mood a little bit. It makes it seem a little, again, I love Disney stage show. Like it's just a little funner. It feels like it's meant to be a little more fun. And so again, when I compare and contrast it to Raid on Grey Malkin, that's just so serious. The voices are really different. It doesn't. This feels like Raid on Grey Malkin felt like, well, you better be reading both these books, and you better read this crossover, or you're going to be, or you're not going to know what happened, and this isn't going to make sense to you, and you're not going to know what's going on with Xavier, and you're not going to know why Rogue is sad next week. This feels much more like, I don't know, they're just palling around. Everybody's just being goofy. Come and join us if you want. This isn't going to change much in the rest of the books that touch Justice League if you don't read it. This isn't going to change what happened to Darkseid. This isn't going to change much of anything, but you might be interested to know that this is a story we're telling. Also, because the nature of World's Finest, which this is another great thing, World's Finest is tales from the past of Batman and Superman that
random points.
What's that?
Random
varying
points.
Yeah, exactly. Completely random points. But they all happened. And when we do that at Marvel, it's always Chris Claremont writing a thing that he wished he could have written at the time, and I'm sure was told no. So now he's finally getting the chance to write it. And then if you're really lucky, Al Ewing will pick up on it and obscurely insert it into Resurrection of Magneto. But that's very different than what Mark Waid is doing, where he's figuring out, oh, I'm telling past tales about Batman and Superman. I'm going to actually go into my own past that I'm writing. I'm going to go into this past from the present.
Uses his own past, not the Kabbalah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, which, listen, it's my heritage. I love it very much, which is why I don't think a lot of people should touch it. But, you know, we kind of both silo and let run roughshod these types of books in Marvel and DC. It's, you know, it's not a silo. It's a little penned in garden with a fence that you can just walk in and out of. So when they go back in time, they go back in time to this book, this other Mark Waid book, which is a lot more fun than you know, Chris Claremont writes a sexy lady that Gambit knows, and then somebody in 5 years from now remembers that happened and treats it like, what, you didn't know?
And her name is always like Horatania of the Harpies, and you
exactly.
Like, no, I
she's
would
a bird lady
Horatania.
with boobs.
Yes, I would remember the feather boobs every time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, just, you know, I was saying to Nico in our chat, when DC does stuff I like, when Marvel does stuff I like, they seem to be emulating the stuff that I like at DC. And when Marvel does stuff that I don't like, it seems like they are missing lessons at DC. And I know I'm being unfair when I say that. And again, so much of it is newbie energy at DC. I imagine there were continuity errors, like the thing that I didn't like about Cyclops in this crossover event that I just don't know about. But it also felt like it mattered less because the stakes are lower, because even though this is so woven into present DC continuity and the status quo of the new Watchtower and all that, it also feels like, I don't know, it doesn't matter that much. It matters like we care that you're having fun, but it doesn't matter like if you don't read this or if you don't understand every aspect of it, well, guess you just don't get DC then. And that's what a lot of Marvel crossovers feel like.
Oh, I agree. I feel so often like when I look at these, you know, when I opened this one and saw there were a couple of references to recent issues of World's Finest, I was like, I don't know how that's going to hit for TK. I hope it's okay. But I also understand that sometimes you just kind of got to make the decision for yourself that I just can't read every book. It's one too many titles, and I only have so much room in my big brain. And World's Finest, a vaguely the past matters title, but doesn't exactly matter, and it maybe seems like just Mark Waid carefully inserting points in past stories for him to access, you know what I mean? Like, and then he does it in a way that's so clever. You know, Mark Waid's classic comic writing style is so enhanced by the art here in both titles. But one of the things that I think is so important to remember about Mark Waid is he never takes himself too seriously. I think that, like, sometimes I think about, you know, Morrison's Batman and, you know, Professor Pig, and how we're supposed to think that this, like, I don't know, adult baby diaper lover is essentially like a threat. He's just gross and he's silly. And I think Morrison is wanting us to think that he's gross and silly in a way that's threatening. But mostly I just think that he's not kosher. And other than that, I don't care. But Mark Waid is sort of like, yeah, if I brought a Joker from vaguely 1960 to the present, he would be sort of like, that's funny. And now I'm going to stab you to death. Like, it would be that level of where this Joker in the present is so cerebrally calculated to the point that he is not ineffectual in a story, but is deeply affected by the persona of what the Joker has to be. When you bring a Joker from the past into the present, you're immediately saying the modern identity of the Joker, this Oscar-winning character, this multi-movie having villain, you say to yourself, all of those trappings become irrelevant because you're talking about a version that's essentially, Cesar Romero. And it's so much more elegant to think about that kind of Joker in many, many cases.
I also, because I don't want to have beat up on Marvel a bunch and not beat up on DC at all.
Do it. Beat them.
The annual. The art especially just, I mean, I'm very sorry. It's Dan McDade. It just doesn't fit. It has a really big job to do, and it just is not able to complete. And by the way, by the time we get to the end of this giant size thing, we might not have perfect art all the way through. Adam Kubert, great place to start, but who knows where we'll go from there. Really fantastic art in other places in We Are Yesterday, but the annual especially, I really noticed it was a jarring departure, for a single issue for an annual. I love that we did a different artist. I think you make it special, but it's just one of those things. Like if it were an audition, I would have just said like, not the role for you, and not the role, not the book for this particular artist. Not a bad artist, just not the book for them. And it is a bit jarring because it's a very important issue to get right.
I also kind of felt like, and I hate to say it this way because this makes me feel reductive in a silly way. Why was it the annual? The way this crossover was packaged, I don't like getting into the packaging wars. I don't like to be all about the number, but 38, 6, annual, 39, 7, and then there's an epilogue. This is one of those things where I know that the industry won't allow it, so I'm not here to get, shitty about the industry, but there is a difficulty for me when it comes to being told that the book is trapping, but then why is it a fucking annual? Then just do 39 and 40 the next week. Don't make it an annual because there's
the We Are Yesterday interlude or something. I mean, the big thing here is it's an annual, but you can't read this. Like, this is not what an annual. This is part 5 or part 3 of the series. Or is it part 4?
The annual is 3 or 4. I mean, and that's even part of this. Like, if it doesn't stand out that much, where you're like, oh, it was the annual. Like, what does it matter?
Yeah, it just. This had so much less to do with being an annual of World's Finest and so much more to do with being the next entry in the series. And I don't necessarily think that's fair to do to readers.
I agree.
I would have just made, if you wanted to, I don't know what the goal was with having it be a one shot, one shot. But I would have made it a We Are Yesterday one shot, not annual as one shot.
It does make me think about the whole point of this episode was we're talking about crossovers. So I guess a couple of round robin questions, new format. We're going to do a thing. Fuck. Yeah. So crossovers, do you prefer them in their own title or in a title that you already buy?
I am so torn on that question right now because Marvel has been selling me some really unpleasant crossovers that are not in titles that I buy. They're in minis, they're in flagship titles for the crossover, but not flagship titles for Marvel overall. And then sometimes, like, some books just are in the crossover too, but it's this insane mishmash. And I really don't like that, and especially because every time the world will never be the same and it's never different. Different. And then I look at Attack on Grey Malkin, Raid on Grey Malkin, which is between 2 books as they go. And I don't like that because
Over.
2 books, 1 crossover, 2 different authors. I don't like how that pans out. I really like what DC has done. But I also really liked Absolute Power, because Absolute Power was much smaller in scope. You really could get by just reading Absolute Power. I thought some of the best work was in Task Force 7, but even that wasn't really necessary. They got their voicing and their pacing and their exposition down so that, like, finding out about Jadestone happened. They could just repeat it really quickly in the main title, even though you were learning exactly what this Amazo was doing in Task Force 7. So I really enjoyed that crossover was coming off the heels of Blood Hunt, which made me furious. And then to read this DC one made me so fascinated by this universe that I was just getting into and just felt so affordable, both in headspace and actual money that I would have to spend to have this experience, and really just made me feel welcome in the DC universe. So, DC's killing it on 2 fronts with crossovers. And now it feels like liking the first issue of Giant Size X-Men, knowing there's, 5? I'm pretty excited about this. All things considered, this is the most excited I've been about something Erica Schultz hasn't written in a hot minute over at Marvel. The investment is low. The payout feels high and interesting. The art is fantastic. And again, it's all one-shots. It's all new books. So I'm really liking this at Marvel, and over at DC, I'm liking, a crossover that's happening between 2 books that I already was reading. I already liked. But again, the specifics, the fact that it's the same author, the fact that it's relatively limited, the fact that content-wise, it's just lighter hearted. I think ultimately I would prefer 5 issues, whether it's 1 series or whether it's 5 one-shots or something like that. I like something like that. I think I prefer that to a within the book crossover, because then I get into, like, it feels a little difficult just to pick up the crossover itself rather than having to pick up the series. So I think I do prefer that, but both companies are really making arguments for and against. So it's pretty fascinating. What's your take?
Gosh, I think it's tough for me because you hit so many crossovers that I love and that I feel so passionately about in the first place from the last year. I feel passionately that Blood Hunt was not meant to be accessible. I feel passionately that One World Under Doom doesn't feel like a crossover. It feels like a banner to tie into the news articles about Doom right now, not even a film. But Absolute Power is one of my top 10 crossovers of my life. And it's not that I feel that way about everything DC I've read in the last couple of years. And every time somebody is like, well, it's just because you're new to DC, or, I'm not new to DC. But I hated the end of Zdarsky's Batman. I thought it was a fucking kind of train wreck on an amazing run, and did not feel that was a Bat Family Values moment. You know what I mean? That was Malibu Batman, So I really feel like one of the things that I want to keep in mind is every crossover is different, but what I want is, if you're going to do in its own book crossover, it better mess me up like House of M. To this day, I still hate the House of M. I still think the crossover itself is a mess. I think the event itself is a mess, but fucked if I don't try to simulate it with everything I do. Fucked if it's not the thing that gave us Heroes Reborn, because Heroes Reborn was not the depth of Age of Apocalypse. It was the nuance of House of M. And so I think if you're going to do its own, I was a ballerina, fucking hell, Andrew. What a king, or because it's Andrew, what a queen. But I just feel like if you're going to do the in title, it better be the titles that you're affecting. If it's going to be its own title, it better be the universe you're affecting. Okay, but now here's a real question for you when it comes to crossovers. Do you like standalone crossovers or crossovers with immediate effect? So are you a bigger fan of things like Secret War by Bendis, or do you prefer Civil War? Secret War, where everything happened and then we reacted at the end of the event and we're all like, oh my God. And it gave us new Avengers. So anybody who's like, that didn't change anything, guys, that was the blueprint for the Marvel Universe for 20 years. Stop lying to yourselves. You should have bought the Gabriel Diallo covers. Sorry about it. But, and then Civil War, everything was affected by it, but a year later, none of it mattered.
Yeah, my preference is for Secret War. My preference is huge scale planning, minds that are doing poetic moves that are going to ripple forever, even if you don't see it immediately. I feel like, I don't know about DC. Marvel seems to have completely given up on that. Just zero interest whatsoever. And so I'm just begging them for a consequential event, an immediately consequential event. I'm begging them for something that actually will never be the same after saying it will never be the same. God, I just keep looking around the Marvel Universe at post Blood Hunt for anything that feels changed because of Blood Hunt. And like, you know, even things that like are, we have more Brielle than ever in the pages of an Unlimited book that a lot of people don't read, because again, I don't know how Marvel even feels about its Unlimited titles.
Ooh, web comics.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love, you know, I look at Judgment Day. Nothing came of we haven't even seen the weird Ajax Celestial again. That looks like one of the Camino aliens from Star Wars. Never seen that thing again. Nobody's Judgment came to anything. You know, I am hard pressed from what I have read of One World Under Doom to imagine a single thing that will be different, or I feel like any of the differences are really going to have to do more with what happens in July in Fantastic Four First Steps. I know they might be tied to One World Under Doom in some way, but I don't think we're really going to see anything until we see what happens in that movie. So, you know, most of it didn't really matter after Civil War, but I do, you know, like for instance, we got to Civil War 2 in part because Tony changed so much as a result of how he behaved in Civil War 1, and Carol kind of became the new Tony. Real
Quick, I saw an article that said Elon Musk isn't Tony Stark, he's Michael Scott, and I just lost my shit forever.
Yes. Yep, I love that.
What a moment.
The only time I've ever loved an AI clip is when somebody reworked Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man to be dunking on Elon Musk when he comes up to talk to him. That's the only time it was ever acceptable. It's only okay when I like it. So yeah, I would rather the Secret War, but I believably what I could beg them for is a Civil War now, something that has some ripples. What about you?
You know, for me, it really is the aftermath. I need something that has long-term effect, but the truth is I really would rather it come through like long-term effect starting in the title. Like I want the tie-in issue to change everything for that solo title forever. I don't love anything that happened in Blood Hunt really, but the fact that Miles Morales remained a vampire for a minute, that's at least kind of ballsy, I guess. It's not weak. It's a weird choice. I don't know. And, you know, obviously I'm not an expert on specifically, and I want to say it this way, white appealing black characters. There are so many beautiful, incredible black characters in comics that just white audiences don't give a chance. But there are also a lot of fantastic black characters that white audiences gravitate toward, like Storm and Miles Morales. And so the fact that I can think of at least 2 or 3 of them that have been turned into vampires is kind of weird. But then I wonder what it is about Marvel and fantastic black characters that draw vampirism. But this makes the second one that had like a really fantastic arc of it. The second character that really, and I'm saying fantastic one because I'm trying to really, not make it gendered, because the fact that it's Miles Morales and not Storm, that's really an interesting take on it. That's such a palpable consequence that we did like 8 months of stories that featured this character as a vampire. All right, I'm in. End of the day, though, what I'm focused on for a crossover is what I'm hoping to get from Batman Daredevil, which is a conversation piece. I want to be talking about it. I want to be thinking about it. Honestly, if it doesn't move the needle 1,000% beyond where I ever thought it would go, okay, fine. Judgment Day was a big wash. But I'm really hoping that we can move to a place where comics are telling us stories that feel new again and feel like they tell us how to react to what's going on. I never thought that Phonogram was the greatest story told ever, but I always thought that Phonogram did something that other comics wouldn't do, which was pay attention to stuff that you might have thought boring in a fantastic way. That's sort of what I'm hoping for from Marvel. I feel like, putting Kamala in the past is a great way to tell us there are things we might not have been considering that were fascinating all along. And I'm really here to see how these stories can unfold. But more than anything, I need Batman and Deadpool as a crossover, not to change the trajectory of these two characters forever, because I don't think that's going to come from a cross-company event, but to tell us something new, to give us a chance to think that these events can do something new, different, and change the status quo, even if just in the public's mind for a period of time. What are you thinking about Batman Deadpool as we approach what could be the first major intercompany crossover in 30 years? This could be like a moment.
I hope it's a moment because I hope it inspires more moments. I hope it inspires more creativity. It truly does not matter if you are on AT&T or Verizon. For some minor people who live like in weird boondocks places where one company or another has managed to get a tower and the other one hasn't, it sometimes matters. Otherwise, they're just the two big cell phone companies. Marvel, I mean, like it matters if you love the characters at Marvel and DC. Of course it does. They have different, they've produced different events. I'm talking about all the ways in which one has done well in one thing, one has done well in the other. So, but these are the two big comic publishers. They're publishing big two comics. They're publishing big swinging superhero stories. They are so much more similar than they are different. And what they can learn from each other is what one is doing well one week that the other one fails at that same week. And then they sort of reverse. But we've got the same people working at both companies. They're whether it is behind the scenes staff that, if you've worked at one and you quit that job, there's a good chance you're trying to go work at the other because what's your experience in? And similarly, if you're a big creator, they're going to want your talent. So they share so much. It seems a little silly, this idea that they would never connect. I know it gets really tough because larger parent companies want access to IP and to be able to monetize that and turn it into something. I think if you go beyond the idea of like, we maximize shareholder value by creating an IP and owning it and then being able to make product off of it, and look at if we do interesting things with IP that we own, it will enhance that IP, even if the interesting thing that we do in that moment is not the most immediately monetizable. Obviously, Marvel can't sell Batman and Deadpool merch, and DC can't sell Deadpool and Batman merch, but this could make Deadpool seem a lot cooler and seem more interesting, and could just inform a different level of storytelling with the character. And so I hope they'll play around with that and take some risks and think outside the box.
It really is about thinking outside the box, because again, they're not going to reveal that Deadpool is the second Hush.
Right.
Sorry about it, but they could reveal something about how Deadpool is capable of detective work that influences the next 10 years of Deadpool storytelling, where we wind up with a really cool, really serious, exciting Deadpool noir title. And I guess that's what I'm hoping for. If we're going to be living in a world where everybody assumes that a Marvel DC crossover has to kind of be garbage, okay, I'm going to let it happen. And here's why I'm going to let it happen. Because I bought the DC Marvel Omnibus editions, and I was under the impression that nobody really cared about them. I was feeling like they were just kind of like, I don't know, a silly artifact. And when I saw that on eBay, these were going for incredible money. On Amazon, they're going for incredible money. The thing that really stuck out to me about these opportunities to see these two worlds come together is that so many people have done them in fanon. So many people have done them in their own storytelling. So many people have created worlds that have become ongoing, major independent comic books that are essentially what if it was a Spider-Man, Batman world, and then developed it into their own thing. That when you're talking about the opportunity to see this happen in real time, in the real world, I'm hoping that this tells Marvel and DC, universes that could have never imagined multiple Batmen, multiple Spider-Men, you maybe need to imagine multiple omniverses. You maybe need to take the opportunity to have ongoing Marvel DC stories. I hear that people might say that that's going to ultimately maybe not just empower the potentiality of crossovers, but ultimately make them weaker by diffusing them with too many crossovers. But I think what you're missing is people never really truly check out on special. They just find new ways to be drawn to it. So for those people who are sitting out there saying, no, I think this is a bad move, I think this is Marvel and DC showing their weakness, I think what you're missing is there are going to be people who look at this and say, wow, I'd never considered those two heroes together. Now I'm going to check out comics, and that's going to lead to a new generation of writers, and that's going to take things in a new direction. That's going to take things to, Kamala Khan being in Giant Size X-Men, and a guy who's been reading comics since Giant Size X-Men, Mark Waid, taking characters like Airwave to new places. All said and done, I'm just feeling a lot better, not just with this first episode of this new format, but with comics as a whole trying to draw me back in when I thought they were done with me.
Yeah, I'm still cynical. We'll see how next week goes for the comics. I'm stoked about the new format. I'm stoked for, you and me to come up with things that we want to talk about and finding them in the books that are coming out. We'll see how the books do. This is going to be a long climb out of a hole, definitely for Marvel. Like I said, I'm a little more forgiving with DC right now, but I see that they're not perfect. And so I'm still paying attention to that, but yeah, we'll see.
The only other thing I really want to say is I did not react well to Justina.
Yeah.
I love Al Ewing for being someone who thinks the universe of the past, but I was not. Gosh, I remember writing a story, and I'm still going to do some version of it. And I remember sending it to a friend of mine who I really think is quite a genius, but super underestimated by the world. And I was like 21, and he was like, wow, I love that you decided to insert an evil female version of yourself into X-Men history. I see that you've decided that you are the most powerful lady that has ever existed. And I'm like, no, she's obviously not me. Why are you being ridiculous? And he said, no, honey, you literally showed up to tell Xavier he's a weird old perv. Babe, that's just you, and you gave yourself boobs. And I was like, no, dear. I went out of my way to create a version of myself that was not myself so that I could insert myself into previous canon. But you'd never be like, oh, look, that's him. You'd be like, oh, that's a lady. That's not him. No. Al Ewing. If I may call you Alewing. I see you. I validate you. But no, in an age of Moira has already done this, I read this and it radicalized me. No more. No more previous mutants.
Yeah, I really have to agree. I mean, I love the Moira retcon is one thing. That's obviously it led to some amazing stuff, but like we did this with Tessa too. Like what was Xavier just running around the earth collecting young women to fucking ruin their lives, and for them to be like, oh, but I'm the most powerful one. Doodly doodly doo.
Well, actually, this one wants to ruin his life, and she's the most powerful one, so I guess that's subversive.
I don't know. And this coming right off the heels of Sarah Gaunt, again, it's another thing where I'm like, as an editor, no, you can't write this. I'm sorry, or we'll publish it later, or do literally anything else, because Xavier's weird past with women is just too exhausting, and I haven't even figured out how to deal with his Holocaust wife and his baby who has to be 80 years old for it to work mechanically. So I don't know what to do, and that's all I have to say about that.
Well, I think you said a lot of really great things and a lot of really important things. I loved this first episode of our new format. It's basically our old format with a new name, but also with a week-by-week focus. And this week was crossovers. We talked about 3 crossovers. We answered 3 questions about crossovers. I think the only thing left to do is say our dream crossover. So, Kevo,
Lord.
To give TK a minute to buy time, you produced this show so beautifully. You came up with new logos. You really do such an amazing job making us look good. We're so grateful. Any fandom anywhere in the universe, TK, you don't get such big parameters. Any fandom anywhere in the universe, Kevo, what is your dream crossover and where can everybody find you?
Gosh, that's a good question. For preface,
While you think, I want to say that one that you always ask for is Grey's Anatomy 911.
Do I always ask for that?
Week after week, you say you hope that the people on 911 find themselves in the Grey's Anatomy emergency bay.
I mostly just wish I mostly just miss Station 19, I think, is the thing. And if we could get 911 to be those people, I don't think that's going to happen though. That'd be a good one. Here, since we're being random, I'm going to pray that Dr. Odyssey and anything. Let's just keep that show going, and let's just have it stop in the port for any show that it wants. Grey's Anatomy, 911 again, shows on other networks. Let's just trudge along in that little boat like it's the TARDIS and go have 3-ways with characters from all sorts of other shows, with Pacey and Eliza from Hamilton and Hot Sunspot from The Gifted. And that's what I want. I want that to cross over with everything right now, just to keep it in my life.
And where can we find you on the internet if we want to find you in your life?
You can find me at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY.
I love it, Kevo. Thank you so much for making us look so good on this show. And speaking of people who look so good on this show, TK, I gotta know, what is your dream comic crossover and where can everybody find you looking oh so good?
I was really trying to think. I think it is the world's worst gay cruise featuring Mystique and Destiny and Wiccan and Hulkling.
Oof, love it.
That's what I got.
I can't ship that, but
no. And you know who's on the boat? Dr. Odyssey is patching people up.
I thought that might be why. Thank you. He would
There
look
you go.
really good in a comic. Pacey
I
Witter.
agree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
they did an entire episode about him in sweatpants. So I'll take it.
It was half the plot. He's not joking. So go watch Dr. Odyssey.
So you can find me just spitballing miserable gay cruises at TK Accidental on Blue Sky. Nico, I need to know your answer, and then I need to know where I can find you, where I can listen to your amazing music, what you got going on, what you're thinking. Tell it all to me.
Green Lantern, Daredevil, and I would have both Hal and probably Jess meet both Matt and Elektra.
You wouldn't have it be Hal and Carol?
No,
Like a terrible couple state?
Oh, a terrible couple date. That's really sexy. But no, I was thinking like proper Green Lanterns and proper Daredevils.
People's working. Just it's a work week.
Well, no, I've got a sequel now. This is great. I've got a Valentine's Day special sequel. Because I just want the Two Men Without Fear to just kind of like clown on it. You know what I mean? But if you guys want to check me out clowning on being a dude who is both without fear and also without any filter, you guys can check me out over on Blue Sky and more social media at Nico Action, NicoAction. But don't forget, you guys can check out my music. This guy said it's amazing, so I know. Over at Nico Action Music, NicoAction. Just throw it in Google or whatever, like Lycos. I don't know. Your guys' search engines. I don't know. That's not my business. But if you guys want to check out more of the amazing feeds of X's for podcasts, there's things like X's for comics now and HTML. You guys can check those out over at X's for podcast and HTML. Search those out on YouTube and cageclub.me. You'll love it. But speaking of YouTube, you guys probably check us out over here at X's for Show, where you guys can check out regular content like our drag race coverage, this show, and more. But we would love if you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Don't get me wrong. But there's 3 things we would really love it if you guys did. Number 1, please stay safe. Crazy world out there. Number 2, please be brave because we love what you have inside. But number 3, evolve daily because who you were yesterday, Gorilla Grodd. Who you are today, Superman. But who you are tomorrow is Airwave as part of the Time Tachyon Continuum. And until we're as tacky as you, continue on.